welcome folks. Just going to finders, keepers, losers, weavers. Basically, the stage I've got to in my career, I've sort of got a little bit conscious that people aren't really sharing their practice. Kind of in the competitive world that we're all working in, you sort of go, actually, there's probably a lot of untapped knowledge. I just want to look at maybe why it's untapped. There you go. Turn a bit, man. Just turn there. So we've literally just started. So we're just cracking into how we share, do we share, and if not, why not? Or if we do, why we do, and maybe what the benefits of it are. Because I certainly found in my environment that people don't really share that well necessarily. So I'm going to try and use my coaching journey so far to try and demonstrate a few things. So this is me, the little one, sort of being influenced probably by teachers, by parents, by family. Got a little bit older, that's one of my mates stitched me up. This made the front cover of Air Zimbabwe magazine. A guy took a quick line out throw to me. I got absolutely smashed. But that was probably when I first started realising that other teams trained differently from we did. That was at a real high level competition with other countries, and we were completely out of our depth. So that was me sort of going, oh, hold on a minute, maybe we're not all that it was cracked up to be. At this point, this was more of an elite academy, and this was my first experience of real elite level coaching, and the intensity that was brought to it was something completely new to me again. Now, as a player, I probably wasn't really identifying with it as a coach yet, but I was starting to pick up that different coaches were doing things differently. After the rugby, I then started my career, qualified as a teacher. All the different skills that you start to learn as a PE teacher in the sports field, all those sorts of things. At the same sort of time, I started doing my qualifications with the national governing body. That then opened up different representative squads to me. And this was the first real point that I started going, actually, there's other people coaching other ways with different people. So it was men's squads, women's squads, all sorts of different things. And I got very fortunate to meet this guy. This is Grimo. Grimo's my mentor. He looks after me. We chat on the phone about everything. So these, so far along my coaching journey, have probably been the sources of learning for me as a coach. So at different stages, I've picked up different things. So all I'd ask you to do now, just with the person across from you, and we'll make a wee bit of a competition from it, I just want you to come up with, and I'll give you a sheet and some pens, as many different sources of learning as you know from a coach. So as a coach, what are all the different ways that you've learned? Okay? Off you go, we chat with the person across the table from you, and just see who can come up with the longest list. Give you another 20 seconds. 6 is in the lead at the minute. Go last 10 seconds. Perfect. Okay, brilliant. I'm going to stop there. Just very quickly, can I ask you now, within each pair, just around the table, just have a quick chat. So we'll go give some feedback. So what have you guys got here?
We did PTC, so I suppose that's like uni stuff as well. Coaching courses, coach education, CPD, social media, like watching other coaches, or your own playing experience. So how you've been coached by other coaches, and then just general observing other coaches.
Brilliant, really good. Anyone in the other two groups got anything else on top of those?
No, pretty much the same.
You said self-reflection,
Self-reflection.
and then the athletes themselves.
The athletes themselves, yeah, that's one that probably gets missed quite a lot in terms of how we learn from them as well.
Observation, training observation, we put on game time as well. Being able to see what you see and how you can potentially make
Right,
an
absolutely.
input to making a difference or a change or learning something from what you see,
Yeah.
whatever that could be.
No, that's good, and that's really interesting with all those, because here is all the different sources of learning. That's from a study from Sports Coach UK. There's all different sorts of sources of learning, and they come down to non-formal and formal qualifications that you get for them, ones without qualifications. Informal gets broken down into incidental, that just sort of happens as you're doing, and intentional, where you go looking for it from resources. And when I started looking into this a little bit more, my list is very similar to yours. There's not much talk in the lists about how we've actually learned from or with other people, is there? Everything was, well, we watched other coaches, or we looked at resources, or we watched other athletes, or we learned from courses. And actually, for me, I was thinking, well, what happens if I'm not the best coach in the world? I back myself, I'm alright. But what happens if I don't have the knowledge and everything, and I can't find it where I want it? Is there this huge untapped source of knowledge that I'm just sort of missing out on? So, different ways that we learn. 70% of the time we're just doing it. We're out in the field, we're in the pool, wherever it is we are, that's where we're learning. We learn from others a little bit, 20% of the time. And formal, that's our qualifications and NGBs. Now, it's real common sense to me, and it didn't happen until I attended a course, and actually the course made no sense to me. I left the course, getting a qualification, but it wasn't relevant to my context at all. I was there with parents of 4-year-old rugby players, and I was working in an elite rugby environment, so it didn't really make sense to me. And then I went to another course with peers who were all doing the same job as me. I didn't get a qualification from it, but I left it such a better coach in the knowledge that I had gained from it. And I was like, how have I missed this? That's pretty common sense. Why am I not just tapping into all these other people? So it was a real light bulb moment for me that sort of went, what am I doing? Why am I not doing enough of it? So started to look at a little bit of the theory, and it was based on situated learning, so how we learn in different situations. Okay, situations, whether it's with a coaching course or with other coaches. When you're continued on this work and sort of framed it in the social theory of learning, and basically what they were saying is that it's all about what your area of interest is, who the people in that area of interest are with you, and then really importantly, how you actually put it into practice. Not just sitting there listening, not just sitting there talking about, just how you work on it together. So that's the quick overview of the theory of it. There's the definition. I think it's really key for me is that they do it better as they interact regularly, and that's something that I knew when I looked at my journey. I was going, I'm just not interacting regularly with people. I'm doing the odd bit here and there, but I'm missing out on so much. So, a question for you, I don't know what your thoughts are on it. I'm a rugby coach. Does my coaching community of practice have to be just other rugby coaches?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Okay, why not? What's your thoughts on it?
You're talking about fundamental principles of coaching.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily, specific to one sport, but, like you say, about communication skills and where you're learning from.
Okay.
So those shared experiences just in working as a coach in whatever field can cross over.
So what do you think is going to be necessary in a community of practice then for that to happen? Because it'd be really easy for a bunch of rugby coaches to get together and talk about rugby. But what's going to need to happen in a community of practice where actually, just sitting around this table, we've got all different sports. What needs to happen? Any thoughts that's going to open up that fountain of knowledge?
You can turn around and say there's a commonality where you're there in the first place,
Okay, so there's got to be an interest, there's got to be
or not,
that mutual engagement.
but or not. You know, you could be. I mean, you've got a common interest why you're there in the first place, but you know, you could just be sitting there and you could talk about a rugby player, all right, about motivation, and then you could relate it to soccer, or you could relate it to swimming. It could just come out of the blue. If there's a commonality there with the various coaches from the various sports, fine. That's great that you're there to look at sports psych or nutrition, but it could be completely different.
The end
because-
goal is the same.
Yeah, I mean, I love going to GA matches. All right, I'm not GA, but I'm a different sport completely. But I like to see how the coaches tactically
Yeah.
prepare the team. I like to technically look at the footballers to see how they make certain decisions at certain times.
Yeah.
I learned something from that. There's no
And I completely agree. It's definitely something that I've made a conscious effort as I've got older. And I think what probably for me, we talk about incidental learning. I've kind of discovered incidentally, but what I want to do is I want to make it intentional. I want to go out and make it intentional style of learning to go. I've got all these fountains of knowledge. I've got these people around me, and I want to pick their brains. And I just don't think at the minute we probably do that well enough as a group of coaches.
I think you do need an interest, and it needs to be a common interest, or else you're not actually going to. So first of all, you need the knowledge, then, but you also need collectively to want to change.
Brilliant. Those are the two key things that we pick out. We've got a common interest, whether it's in the sport or the outcome of getting better, and then, like you say, having the knowledge to then be able to discuss about it. And whether that's knowledge that you're imparting or whether it's knowledge you're gaining, it's just a discussion about it. So this really again became evident for me. We took some of our rugby boys to Ipswich Town goalkeepers, and the goalkeepers started doing some work with them on their handling skills, which was mind-blowing to me, but the boys came away from it going, that was really good, really beneficial. Then we started thinking, what else can we do? So we brought in a gymnast coach to do some work on the trampolining, because when you're in the air in a trampoline, you're controlling your body, and that's effectively what a line-out is. So we had all our forwards working on the trampoline. So I'm sort of going, I'm never going to be a trampoline expert. I'm never going to be a goalkeeping expert. But if I can do something that's going to add to what my knowledge base is to improve a skill, it's just this huge untapped resource. And then I started looking into it more and more, and they go, well, funny enough, England cricket have realised this as well. So they do really good skills one-on-one with drills with the batsmen and bowlers, but they don't do much gameplay tactics because it's a different thing. But they realise that rugby do a lot of practice through gameplay. So they said, well, we'll teach you how to do the one-on-one stuff better if you teach us how to do the gameplay stuff. So there's a lot of partnerships starting to develop, and for me, this is something I'm going, oh, I need to get on board with it. So giving you a little bit of the background, a little bit of the theory, I want to learn from you guys now, pretty much. So your task is with a partner, you're just going to establish fundamental movement skills. You don't have to work with the person opposite from you. You can work with anyone. If there's someone on the table that you say, do you know what, I could really bring something to your sport, if you've got an idea. So we'll have a little bit of a group discussion about it first. Okay, you guys can work out who you want to work with. And basically, you're going to tell them, this is my skill in my sport. This is how I might use it in your sport. This is how I've taught it. This is how it's worked. And that person will hopefully say, do you know what, yeah, I could apply that. They might go, do you know what, no, I might. Because in a community of practice, not everyone agrees all the time. But it's sharing that, giving them the opportunity. And so we're going to give you, let's go 5 minutes to get up to get a partner, to have a fundamental movement skill that you think, yeah, I can add that to another sport. Everyone happy with the task? Go for it.
yours more
Is there the weight different with the ball, or is it just,
It's,
are you saying
Very,
very
very
much
much.
big ball like basketball instead of football?
It's the same in the mechanics of the kick, except we're slightly more than the ball. So it's the ball that benefits rather than the ball.
Yeah.
Start, make it even simpler for them, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you're trying to improve that hand-eye coordination as
Yeah,
well.
so
And the difficult scenario could be,
From a rugby
you
perspective,
could be knocked off balance, and you're having to do the same thing, where someone's, shooting you, and you're trying to catch the ball with their hand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, if you're going to, whoever you're sparring with, if you're going to, it's like sort of measuring the strength of your, or what do you call it, a pump, yeah, you're supposed to put the bottom up to the ball.
And is there a different in how they?
But the thing is, they can, they sort of, they can nearly,
Well, basically what we do with ours is that we would do, say we do freestyle as an example, alright, you take the actual power, alright,
you could measure it, they can
kicking a load only, equates to 50%
distribution,
propulsion, so it's propulsion moving forward, okay, so the important is that balance, and which position
you can see how effective you're being,
position is part of my
it's a vector analysis,
Not the way that we taught
see
kick
what
out,
the-
it's the shape of the ball.
Alright, so what you do, you use the power, focus on the position,
slightly
And then
off
as they
the
get
inside.
it's almost like elementary teaching stuff. Alright, so we can see the body position,
After
like,
that, it's
but we ask them
soft
to kick
extend the road,
for
conversion
short
power from
distances.
horizontal
So they
line.
try to maintain that body position on the surface, okay, to see how
The way we generally
they can get
So what
used
way
to the
then?
aspect of heighting.
and kick the ball.
Yeah, so what would happen there is that we look at different areas of areas of shooting box, strength. Okay, so you would obviously
Sort of
the kick itself.
round at the things that you or like a goalkeeper, like a goalkeeper. Yeah.
That's the position allows them to float. So you're saying it can be that even free hand, you can kind of be a little muscular, okay, the chances are there's some position they can second and stronger.
It's hard to
Try to float
so
depending on what
you're talking about taking a series of complex,
a propulsive,
you'll stack yourself in block,
right? So look at strength and weaknesses. So strength could be
and you'll even vary how much practice that you do
ankle,
at different points in the
That way.
season.
okay, ankle,
Different practice coming out of the
You have
blocks.
the thought of it.
And then
Do they
like
kick
the
the
opposition,
ball ground
you're
much?
even managing
Why not? Is that a tactic
the
that's
likes
not
of
used?
your
I
strength
don't know.
and composition.
core, strength, actually, core strength,
Oh, just the power.
shoulder flexibility,
Well,
shoulder mobility.
we break
And you may think,
you
why is that?
literally break
Talking
your
streamlining.
run down.
Okay, we got
Into
kids that's running
what
with
we
push
call
hands.
component parts.
Alright, so you think about, you think about, you get asked,
You're looking at
squat.
I just
Both your
Looking forward, I mean, how good is it?
high knees,
Squat, when you think about it.
you know, so we have
It's really the exact same. The key one for weakness would be possibly is shoulder mobility. The problem is like head
40
position.
meter reps of just
slow
high knees.
Okay.
You're literally almost focusing on
Weaknesses.
doing the
Position. So if they can't
So
train
you can
their
kick rounders,
position,
so you're
in
so you're
relation,
not
you
your
would say
muscle,
your
not too
shoulders,
worried,
like you get your knees side.
shoulders,
just find it out from themselves,
And then you're constantly
what works and what
working
doesn't
or
work.
you're facing your foot and what part of your foot you're landing on. And you almost do it all in slow motion.
We're doing kicking.
They're throwing it out with it.
Coordination,
And,
so taking it and running it, it's
Stable
taking it right down and then each component then
What we're looking at the different aspects. Okay, so if you look at that, looking at kicking, okay, and the
Yes,
second
and
is describe the create
the legs will keep the knees land on the flat of your foot
position.
and that you
Alright, soft kicking, okay, short distances.
stride length discovery.
This is so you look at the ankle mobility, hip mobility, body part concentration, because it's very advanced way of taking the float and top of that sink.
Whenever we
core
sort of
strength and shoulder mobility. Alright, head position again, shoulder mobility, because
Yeah.
weaknesses, ankle hip mobility again. from all levels.
Right.
So it's almost like, you know, even though we're coaching, we still, you know,
We
teaching
would probably,
aspects.
Just what I said to you could measure it scientifically, like you see in the lab in beer, you could analyse
you
your
know, so if you're
your
starting
start
us, you're not
on
just
the
focusing on it. So outside of the passion aspects,
as to how
they're
effective
so
you
they're,
are, like how much, like what
you
percentage
know,
of your
what way we do it,
your energy
through the model. Or losing, so static cats.
you wouldn't do that like out on the track, like a normal training session, like that would be quite a very specialist thing that you would go through to have that analysed, and then you would, what you would do then is break it down into, you know, maybe a few micro drills to try and improve, so that you're not losing energy laterally and that sort of thing.
Strengths and weaknesses, so you're basically
Best players
looking
are both fit,
hip ability certainly.
It's probably that, the
Yeah.
idea,
You could say body.
breaking down
I
your
mean, you talk about the low center gravity.
as you're improving your strength and conditioning, the overall power, and then your
Strength
legs,
for what you do.
you know, it's
You definitely show ability if you're trying to go from.
I think so.
Folks, I'm very reluctant to,
sports will do that.
I'm very reluctant to stop the chat because I know I'm very aware that it's still going on, but I'm aware that we've got a short time. I could let that probably go on for. And I just want to touch on this one at the minute. So can you very quickly go? You guys have gone for.
Well, I'm coming from athletics background
Yeah.
and sprinting in particular.
Perfect.
Charlene's coming from kickboxing and looking at generating power in both a kick and me trying to understand kickboxing a bit better.
See, straight away, without going into massive details, I've gone absolutely sprint start. I need acceleration out of the block. I need leg drive. I need lead lift,
Yeah.
and we go kickboxing. So straight away, I know that if I put you guys in a room for half an hour, put a beer in front of you,
Yeah.
you'd be like, right, we can sort out different things that we'd have done in different sports. Brilliant, really like, thank you. Right, gonna crack on. There are 3 dimensions of the practice: mutual engagement, joint enterprise, and shared repertoire. So when participants sustain mutual engagement in their enterprise long enough to share significant learning, a community of practice is the result. So what we're saying is that actually when you talk to each other and have an enterprise that you're both interested in, and you keep that going, actually that's your community of practice and that learning can happen. Now, I mean, do you not feel like that's just happened right now? Of course, I know it hasn't, you know, but there's something now that if this continued and if we met every week along these kind of lines, I think it's something that definitely could, you know, could push through. Sounds really simple. Group of interested, intelligent people get together and share their knowledge. Okay. Why doesn't it happen? Why doesn't it happen? So, can I go different partners? So if you two pop to that page, if you two pop to this page, and you two pop to this page, there's many barriers to why you think communities of practice don't happen. Why communities of practice don't happen. Lee? One each.
Alright, okay.
Yeah, the different partners.
Alright,
Got a session.
Coach development. You know, so it's all that's where those various coaches come together. Academic sense, where this idea is the person types.
Okay, why is it not happening? What stops that happening? Just go for another 30 seconds and then we'll have a look at each other's. Right, okay. Love this. That's sad that that's true, isn't it? It's really sad that that's true.
Even though you got the ideas as well.
Even it, that's
Yeah.
okay, folks. I just want you to go on Magpie. I just want you to go and just have a look at everyone else's. Just see what they've got. Just go and see what they've got, because they've got some really good stuff on a lot of these things, don't they? Neil, is this NGB guidelines?
Yeah.
So true. Love it. Really good. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not rocket science.
Social networking.
Yeah.
You want to do the trick?
That's a whole different topic of what's the difference between social networking and communities of practice. Go on, have a quick look at someone else's.
No, there it is.
Once you've had a look, just pop back down.
Do you want to see
In
something?
the minute?
No, we'll see where we are. 'Cause
So, I mean, you'll see now. What I've got up there is pretty much you guys have nailed. When you go around the sheets, everything's ticked off. And that's, again, when you get a group of people who are interested and who have knowledge about coaching, they're all aware of the same barriers. Okay? And it's really scary and frustrating for me that actually those barriers exist. I can maybe allow time, I can maybe allow geography, because we can't help those ones sometimes. But this stuff like opposition, not wanting your opponents to know. If your ultimate goal is to get a better coach, jeepers, you just have to learn from each other. Anyone got any examples of those or any experiences where they go, they just want to feel they want to?
I think you could really, you could drill down into each one of those.
Absolutely.
And have you could have almost have a course within each
With each one of those?
one.
Okay. So from that then, we'll not go too deep, because I'm sure every one of us could have examples of those, and we'll just go past it then.
I
But
think the other one is people aren't afraid to share it, right? But if there was a value on it, if there was somebody wanted to pay £20, then they will share it straight away.
I'm sort of glad somebody else mentioned. I'm sort of
And
glad
there's
somebody else
another
mentioned
example of it,
monetary value.
of someone not wanting to say in front of other people half the time.
Yeah.
A, because you don't want to look like you know everything, or B, you don't want to know like you don't know enough. You know, all sorts of things.
I think as an interesting sideline, just when you say it's interesting that you put the value on the outcome, but for me, and doing this course, even and doing it, and trying to do this course and take it further out, between the different governing bodies and how effective each one might be, our own time and how you're trying to spend time in developing yourself as a coach. Like everyone, I think, in their day-to-day lives has almost a value in their own time, and there is that hurdle to overcome as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I just want to very quickly show you examples of how it maybe could work. My old head of department wanted a language for learning for everybody. He said, whatever you're netballer, hockey player, rugby player, when we say these terms, we want our kids to know it. Waggle. This is me giving some. What a good one looks like. So if I told a kid, go and find the waggle, he'd go and find me the best one at it. You knew any kid, any sport, he'd go and find it. Judge and move. We love judge. If we just said J&M, the kid would go, oh, I didn't move to it properly. Okay? Teacup. Thinking clearly under pressure. If we showed that on the rugby pitch, the netball pitch, the kids knew. So that was just an example of very simple. As a department, we came together as a community of practice and said we want a common language, and it worked. This is an online platform. Very, very good if people engage. Here's a question from a random parent. How many tackles should my kid make during a game? Joe Blogs, who's joined the group. That depends on how you play, tactics. England under 18 rugby coach. Actually, a defender might be so good you don't have to make the tackle. That for me is brilliant. There's engagement from all different levels, all different viewpoints. Okay, so there's an example of how it can work online. So in conclusion, the benefits of the community of practice hugely outweigh the barriers to it. the barriers are significant, but being able to do it, there's a huge benefit. Gilbert Earl, effective coaches understand that they cannot improve by themselves. Learning how to coach effectively is facilitated by participating in informal and formal communities of learning with coaching peers. I think for me, as I've got older, I've started to realise that I don't know everything, I never will know everything, but I want to learn from other people, and I want to make that intentional. Okay? So, that's just a quick overview of it, an example hopefully of how it could work for you, something to think about. It'd be really silly of me to do a workshop on community of practice and not use you because you're my community of practice. Okay? So what I need now is I just would like, if possible, some feedback. If I give you some sheets, WWW is what went well, EBI is even better if, what you think had happened, just so that I can learn from you guys. This is my first ever workshop. I'm a teacher, very different from workshops. So I would just be stupid of me to stand here and talk about learning from others and then not get some from you guys, if that makes sense. So if I could just ask you very quickly, just for a couple of minutes, if I get you some sheets. And that is me. Thank you very much for your time, folks. Thank you for getting involved. There's the start.